The Progressive Dinner Party Restored is a project I have taken on to preserve a showcase containing 39 digital works curated by Carolyn Guertin and Marjorie Lusenbrink. Based on Carolyn Guertin's collection Assemblage, the website acts as a space for women's voices through digital art and literature on the web. The Progressive Dinner Party was created for the Women in Technology issue of Riding the Meridian, an online journal founded by Jennifer Ley. Ley still maintains the journal to this day, and is committed to keeping the Progressive Dinner Party and the 39 pieces alive. These hypertextual works come in a variety of formats, including Adobe Shockwave, Flash, and slideshows, to name a few. The collections were inspired by feminist artist Judy Chicago's The Dinner Party, which was an art installation created in the 70s. The installation was comprised of a triangular table with 39 place settings, with each one honoring a historical female artist. Similarly, ELIT authors Guertin and Lusenbrink wished to celebrate these contributions made by female artists in the ELIT field. Their showcase is thus formatted like a dinner party, with a virtual triangular table containing 39 place settings that link out to each artist's work. But after being on the web for 20 years, the site has begun to lose its integrity. Many of the external links go to sites that no longer exist, or to Shockwave files that can't be played in mainstream browsers. These 39 works that helped revolutionize and broaden the field of electronic literature would disappear unless they were updated and preserved. Rhizome's web recorder tool made it possible to do both, which archives page performance and functionality as open-source work files. Whether I had the local files of a work or an external link, I could reformat them in a way that prolonged their lifespan while maintaining the work's aesthetic and functionality. I could then make the works available online using a URL generated by the web recorder and host it on its site. I have made these URLs available at the original website for the Progressive Dinner Party, and I've also made them available through an open-source book built on the Scalar platform. I would like to thank Washington State University for its support with the undergraduate summer mini-grant, the Electronic Literature Lab for its resources, and for the Electronic Literature Organization's support. I would also like to thank Jennifer Ley for her dedication to keeping the Progressive Dinner Party and similar works alive in Riding the Meridian.
Welcome, everybody. This is a special launch party for Kathleen Zoller, who did a tremendous project called the Progressive Dinner Party Restored. I'm Deanie Grigar. I'm the director of the CMDC program here at Washington State and her mentor working in the Electronic Literature Lab located here at the university. I'm going to turn this over to Kathleen, but before I do, I want to thank Trevor Dodge for allowing us to use his classroom during this period and borrow his students to show this fabulous project too. So thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Deanie. All right, so the Progressive Dinner Party is a digital collection of 39 works created by female artists internationally. The collection was curated by Marjorie Lusenbrink and Carolyn Guertin, and it's been maintained in the online journal Riding the Meridian by Jennifer Ley for about 20 years. My grant project involved 3 main tasks. The first of these was to take the 39 works within the collections and update them to be viewable in modern browsers, since most of them were created in the late 1990s. My second task was to then take the restored works and move them into the Progressive Dinner Party's website, so that when you entered the site, you would see the updated works versus the ones that may not have been functioning. And my final task was to compile all of my findings and research in an online book. As you can see here, I have it up. It is created in the Scalar platform. Now, Scalar is used by the Electronic Literature Lab because we appreciate the use of its open source codes such as JavaScript and HTML, and also because it's available on the web for anyone to view. Now here you've already seen the introduction to the video. Well, those of you in the live stream saw the video. The people here didn't. But this is basically the introduction to my book, and I provide a brief overview of the project. So I'm going to start by showing you all the website itself, because I think that would make things easier. So here we are brought to the Progressive Dinner Party's invitation. If we click through the invitation, we are brought to the virtual table. Now, the file that got downloaded here would have been a sound file that used to automatically play in web browsers. Unfortunately, that's not supported in HTML5. It would have played like jazzy dinner music. And as you can see here, this is supposed to be reminiscent to Judy Chicago's art installation that she created in the 1970s. The art installation was meant to commemorate 39 female artists throughout history. And the Progressive Dinner Party seeks to do the same thing. It takes 39 female artists from internationally and commemorates their contributions to the field of electronic literature during the early days of the web. And as you can see here, if I click on a place setting, I am taken to that artist's plate. And as I click through, you can see that the plate changes depending on the artist's specific contributions and their personalities. Now here, if I click on the artist's plate, I am shown the artist's work in a web browser here. There is a specific work I would like to show you all, though. This is one created by Christy Sheffield Sanford, and if you click on this, you can see that the work is a beautiful poem with lovely moving images. And with many of the other artists, I had to contact her directly for her files. And she not only agreed to share her files with me, but she also donated many of her works to the Electronic Literature Lab. So Christy, if you are watching right now, I just wanted to give a personal thank you. We were very excited to hear in the lab that you donated your works to us. You may have noticed the white banner across the top. This just means that I ran the files through the web recorder tool developed by Dragon Espenscheid. Now this web recorder tool will take any files you give it and convert it to WARC files. WARC is a file extension spelled W-A-R-C, and it is used for documentation on the web. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and as you can imagine, it is helpful for converting files such as Adobe Flash. Now Adobe Flash is not going to be supportive as of December 2020, so as you can imagine, it is helpful to have these files converted into WARC formats so that they last longer on the web. Now the web recorder offered two main methods for, let me see if I can get back to my book here. It offered two main methods for converting files into WARC files. The first of these was to take the files locally on my computer and run them through a command line program called the WARCit Toolmaster, and then upload it to the web recorder directly. It was really as simple as that. My second method, though, was for if I did not have the files, but I found them online. This was a slightly more complex project. I would have to activate the web recorder tool within my browser, and as I clicked through the work, every button pressed, every page I visited, every video that played would be captured with the web recorder. But I do want to be clear that the web recorder doesn't just take like a screen capture of everything I did. So if you were to open the WARC file, you wouldn't just see my cursor buzzing around clicking buttons. Instead, it actually captures the functionality of the work. So if you were to open the web recorder file, you would be like clicking a button and you would see the functionality that happened as the same as the time I ran through it. When I finished creating the WARC files, it would then generate a URL for me to put into the Progressive Dinner Party, which completed my second task. So I could take these URLs and put them into the website, and people, when they came to view it, would see the updated files versus the not so updated files that were created in the 1990s. And that brought me to my final task, which was to put all of my findings in an online book. As you can see here, you already saw the introduction, which had the video at the top and offers a brief overview of the project. Oh, here we go. And then you already saw the web recorder chapter. I also have a chapter in my book that is about the website itself. There are a lot of features in the Progressive Dinner Party that I did not share with you, such as a section of commentary by Talon Mehmet and Catherine Hales. There's also a series of dinner menus you can look at and an online virtual guest book that you can visit. Lastly, I have a 39 works chapter. And from here, you can click on these links and it'll take you directly to the artist's plate, as I showed you earlier. You may notice that we have the author's name underneath, and then a series of keywords. Now these keywords are tags for the work. Essentially, these tags are meant to help you have a rough estimate of what a work will be like if you were to click on it and view it. But it's also a great way for scholars to collect quick and easy metadata regarding the Progressive Dinner Party. So for instance, they could look through the tags and tell how many flash works there were, how many shockwave, how many used GIFs. I also have a chapter that talks about these tags in better detail so that you can, scholars can get a better understanding of what each tag means during their research. The final chapter I have is a contributors page. Here at the top, I just have the list of contributors that went to the project and the book. There's me here. Here we have Dini Gregar, who found the grant and has guided me through the project. And then MONECA, who was our videographer upstairs in the Electronic Literature Lab. as we can see down here, we have a collection of contributors that made the Progressive Dinner Party possible. So here's Jennifer Ley, who was the founder of the journal Riding the Meridian that the work presently sits in. And then we have Marjorie Lucebrink and Carolyn Guertin, who are responsible for the creation and curation of the Progressive Dinner Party. So I suppose that concludes my presentation. The project itself is still underway, though the book is done, and that this kind of launch party is meant to celebrate the book and kind of tell you all what I did with my summer grant. I can take questions now, if there are any. We will switch to the Q&A portion. Thank you, Greg.
Absolutely.
Holly has a question. Hello, Holly.
Hi, Kathleen. So I know you said that you reached out to a lot of the artists. What were their response to you doing to this work?
Overwhelmingly positive, actually. They were really excited to see their works recreated and to see it alive again after, about 20 years of not having seen it because it was made for older devices. So that was really touching to actually see them all reach out to me and say, thank you, and we really appreciate what you're doing. It made me feel good about the grant project. That's a good question, thank you. Oh, here comes Fernando. Hey.
Hey, Kathleen.
Hi.
So what was your inspiration for doing this?
Well, I'd say my inspiration was seeing that there were 39 female artists that contributed to the early days of the web. I did not know that females particularly were that involved in tech that early, but it was really inspiring to see that they were and that, I could maybe follow in their footsteps.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Nicholas.
Hello, Kathleen.
Hi.
Now that you've done this, what have you picked up that's going to help inspire the next project?
Well, first of all, we learned a lot about the web recorder tool, and our next grant project is going to be involving restoring flash and shockwave works. And as I explained, what the web recorder does is it will take these files and convert them into WARC files to make them last on the web. So by experimenting with this tool, we have basically created the pathway that we'll take for our next grant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hey there. So if I understand correctly, for the second method you used, you'd have to navigate. Does that mean you have to navigate to every single area of the work and everything that could happen?
Absolutely, which is partially why it took most of the summer. So some of the works were, it's true, some of the works were very complex hypertexts, which are basically a bunch of linked passages. And I would have to go through each page and ensure that the link was captured by the web recorder.
So my follow-up to that was, which was the most difficult or complex one where you had to hunt down every little thing?
Dark Leaf, which was a collection of hypertexts on the web. So it was not just one hypertext, it was probably 40 hypertexts.
Wow. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Hello, Deanie.
Kathleen, do you want to give them a little bit of an idea of what it was like to write a mini grant and to receive it and having the experience of doing this scholarly work?
Oh, yes. So first of all, kind of taking notes as you go was helpful. I had a spreadsheet that contained metadata about the works I was specifically looking at. So I could count how many flash works there were, how many shockwave works, how many artists I could reach out to, what their emails were. And this kind of gave me a foundation for moving on to write about my project. I could talk about how many works did function by the time I got to the Progressive Dinner Party and how many weren't and that needed to be updated. And then I could incorporate this into sort of my grant work and my proposals. So that was especially helpful, I would say, taking notes as you go so that you can kind of compile it and showcase it in your research later in writing grants. Oh, hi.
Hi, I'm Grace.
Hi, Grace.
So you said that the DinnerWorks is still going on. I was wondering if you were still actively working on it and what's left to be done about
Yes.
the project.
I would say finding a way to get the shockwave files compatible with everybody else's browsers is still a thing. The web recorder, as of now, will emulate the Flashworks for you in your browser, But even though I would capture the shockwave works in the web recorder, it can only be viewed on somebody's computer if they have a shockwave player, which I happen to have, but not everybody does.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. These are all great questions.
I know.